Could a move like this be too risky or just risky enough for the Boston Red Sox? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and one of the non-tendered players this offseason should be really intriguing for Boston. One of the Brewers' best pitchers, and honestly, one of the better pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, did not receive a contract from the Milwaukee Brewers and is now a free agent. And yes, there's some risk involved here for sure, but if it pays off, it could pay off incredible for the Boston Red Sox. So what we're going to do in today's videos, we're going to break this player down. We're going to talk about who he is, how he plays, why there's so much risk involved with signing him, and ultimately try and figure out if this is something that's worth the risk for the reward for the Boston Red Sox. But before we get into that, today is Black Friday, and if you've been looking to get gifts for Red Sox fans that are family members, friends, or yourself, there is no better day than today to head to FOGO, FOCO.com, and pick yourself up some really incredible Red Sox merchandise. They've got stuff on sale up to 50% off, like the hoodie that I have on right now. That is a blanket hoodie. It's basically like wearing a comforter. It is absolutely incredible for the winter months. They've got toys, they've got shoes, they've got hats, they've got apparel, blankets, everything you can imagine is currently on sale at FOCO.com, FOCO, up to 50% off for Black Friday. Now, this goes until November 28th, so you do have some time, but no better time like the present. So if you're looking to pick up some gifts for the Red Sox fans in your life, or you're looking to treat yourself this Black Friday, click the link in the description below or click the link in the comments to get yourself some Red Sox merch today. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. The player we are breaking down today is former starter for the Milwaukee Brewers, Brandon Woodruff. Now, Woodruff statistically throughout his 7 seasons has been absolutely fantastic. Woodruff has spent 7 seasons at the major league level, some of those in the bullpen, some of those in the rotation. Overall, what he's been able to accumulate is a 3.10 ERA with a really impressive 3.19 FIP, meaning that he performed basically up to his ERA throughout the entirety of his career. He has a whip almost at 1.045 and an ERA plus of 137, meaning that on the mound in those 7 seasons, Brandon Woodruff was about 37% more productive than the average pitcher in Major League Baseball. On top of that, too, he also had a pretty impressive 10.4 strikeouts per 9 and a pretty good 2.3 walk per 9, meaning that he was striking out many more batters than he was allowing walks, and he really wasn't allowing a ton of walks. What this led to was a 2-time All-Star as well as a top 5 Cy Young finisher in 2021, where he probably had the best statistical season of his career. Now, the reason the Milwaukee Brewers moved on or decided to not bring Brandon Woodruff back had nothing to do with his ability on the mound. In fact, in 2023, he was having one of the best statistical years of his career. He finished 2023 in 11 games with a 2.28 ERA, a bit higher of a 3.60 FIP, whip well below 1 at 0.821, meaning he was giving up less than 1 walk or hit per inning that he pitched in 2023. This led to an ERA plus of 189, or again, about 89% more productive than the average starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. That is a really impressive statistical season from Brandon Woodruff. In fact, Brandon Woodruff is one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball pretty consistently over the last few years. If Corbin Burnes did not exist on the Milwaukee Brewers, you're probably talking about the ace of that pitching staff. Statistically, there is absolutely nothing wrong with Brandon Woodruff. His ability is really, really impressive. So why did Milwaukee make this decision to move on from Brandon Woodruff going forward? Well, the biggest reason why is because Woodruff ended up with season-ending surgery at the end of 2023, right before the Wild Card Series to be specific. Now, this surgery is going to leave Brandon Woodruff out of the game rehabbing for the entirety of 2024. For the Milwaukee Brewers, this didn't work out really well because Brandon Woodruff was scheduled to become a free agent after this season. Basically, what that means is the Milwaukee Brewers would have paid Brandon Woodruff to rehab with their team and then possibly lose him in 2025 going somewhere else, right? It didn't make a ton of sense for the Milwaukee Brewers to retain Brandon Woodruff in 2024 just to let him walk in 2025. So it really wasn't his ability that prevented the Milwaukee Brewers from bringing him back. What it more so was his ability to to be on the mound, which makes sense, right? For the Brewers, that makes sense. But for the Red Sox, why would they be possibly interested in Brandon Woodruff? What are the risks involved, and is it worth it? Is the risk to reward ratio worth it for the Boston Red Sox to be interested in Brandon Woodruff? To answer the first part of that question, why the Red Sox may be interested in Brandon Woodruff, the answer is actually pretty obvious. It's because of the fact that when healthy, Brandon Woodruff is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. When you're looking at the Red Sox rotation going into 2025, because again, Brandon Woodruff cannot play in 2024, there are possibly going to be a couple of holes. Chris Sale has a team option after 2024, which most likely won't be picked up, meaning that Chris Sale probably won't be here in 2025. Nick Pivetta is a free agent after the 2024 season. We haven't really heard anything about an extension or anything like that with Nick, so it's possible that he's also a free agent. And what you'd be getting with Brandon Woodruff, if you gave him a contract that was similar to a James Paxton, where you pay him to rehab and then come back in 2025, would be allowing him to fill a role in this starting rotation. Not just fill a role, but be one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball who consistently over the last 7 years gave you ace caliber stuff, right? That is a very clear reason why the Red Sox may be interested in Brandon Woodruff. On top of that, the value of Brandon Woodruff is really interesting right now. And going into 2024, he was projected to make around $11.6 million in arbitration. Now, obviously, that number is going to plummet a bit because of the fact that if you are going to pay Brandon Woodruff, you are going to have to pay him to rehab for a year, right? There is a very real possibility that if you're the Red Sox, you're looking at this and saying, okay, we can get a top line starting pitcher starting in 2025 for the price of a 4 or a 5 pitcher, right? You could pay him $5-6 million in 2024 to rehab and then start paying him $11, $12, $13 million in 2025 and 2026, possibly getting again an ace caliber pitcher for the price of a 4 or a 5 in your rotation. There are some pretty clear reasons why the Boston Red Sox should be interested in Brandon Woodruff, but there's also, like we've been mentioning this whole video, some big risks involved with Brandon Woodruff. And the biggest risk here is what he's going to look like coming back from this surgery, because the specific surgery he got was to repair the anterior capsule of his right shoulder, which has happened a few times in Major League Baseball to some pretty prominent pitchers. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and these pitchers come back sort of a shell of themselves, a lesser value pitcher than they were before they went down. Some good examples of this is Mark Pryor and Johan Santana. Both of these guys had a similar surgery or the same surgery and came back and just simply could not get back to what they were before they went down, which is a big concern, right? But recently, there has been some successful surgeries like this where the player has come back and pitched really well. A prime example of this, Julio Urias of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who got this same surgery in 2017 and then came back in 2019. And between 2019 and this year, Julio Urias has put up a 3.01 ERA with a 139 ERA plus. Now, obviously, this was before he went and did something really stupid and probably cost himself his major league career. He's an idiot. That's not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is that there's both successful stories regarding this surgery and there's horror stories regarding this surgery. It could really go either way, right? Brandon Woodruff could come back and be a shell of himself and be a sort of not James Paxton-esque type player, but not exactly what he was, that sort of frontline starter, consistent ability to be at the front line of a rotation type pitcher, or he could come back and be exactly the same guy that we saw before he went down, right? There are two different sides to this coin, and it's a big risk for the Red Sox to take that on and try and figure out which side this coin's going to land on. Now, for the Red Sox, I think ultimately when you're looking at this type of contract, it comes down to two things. One, do the Red Sox believe that Brandon Woodruff will be able to be fully healthy in 2025? And two, do they think they can get him back to what he was, right? Do they believe in their training and rehab staff in getting Brandon Woodruff back to who he was? If they do, then maybe this contract is worth it. If they have some questions, then maybe this contract isn't, which is what makes this contract so risky. So if we're looking at all the factors here, trying to figure out if we were in charge of the Boston Red Sox, would this be something we would be interested in? I think personally, yeah, I would, right? I would be very interested in it because of just how talented Brandon Woodruff is and the potential for him to come back. And even if he is a step down from what he was in Major League Baseball for 7 seasons, he's still a really solid 3 or 4 type pitcher that you're paying 3 or 4 type money for. And there are ways to minimize this risk, right? If you are going to give him a 3-year contract where the first year you're paying him $6 million, that's not really anything in terms of Major League Baseball money, right? That wouldn't really affect your payroll or your ability to go out and get anyone else like a frontline starter, like a second baseman, like a right-handed power bat this offseason. That would immediately help your team, and it could really improve your team going into 2025. On top of that, you could add in that, hey, look, we'll give you this 3-year deal and we'll allow you to rehab here and try and get you back to who you were, but we're also going to include some club options in here as well, just to help us in case you do come back and you're not what you used to be, right? This would allow the Red Sox to minimize this risk. It would also allow Brandon Woodruff to prove that he is worth the money and prove that he could still pitch in Major League Baseball and allow himself to build himself back up and get a more lucrative contract if things all work out, right? This could work out for both parties. There are ways to go about this where you are minimizing the risk and allowing yourself to take on a contract like this and still be successful. Now, I know there's going to be some hesitation amongst Red Sox Nation because of how the James Paxton contract worked out, but these are two different players, right? First of all, James Paxton is a much older version of Brandon Woodruff, right? The fact that he was rehabbing at 35 is a big difference to Brandon Woodruff rehabbing at 30, going on 31, coming back at 32. Those are two different scenarios. The second thing that's different here is that James Paxton was out of the game much longer, right? James Paxton hadn't really pitched since 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023 were all sort of injury-prone seasons. Brandon Woodruff is a little bit different in that in 2021, 2022, he pitched a full season and had some of the best seasons of his career. Finally, Brandon Woodruff, he's been more successful recently than James Paxton was, right? James Paxton, even when he was healthy in his last season before 2023, he was an average pitcher. Brandon Woodruff is coming off of being a top-line starting ace caliber pitcher over his last few seasons. He's more recently successful than James Paxton. So these are two entirely different cases, and I think if they were willing to take the risk with James Paxton, they should be willing to take the risk as well with Brandon Woodruff. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Is this someone you're willing to take a risk on? If you are, what would your contract look like for a Brandon Woodruff? If you aren't, let me know why you wouldn't take the risk with Brandon Woodruff in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget to take advantage of these Black Friday deals at FOGO.com. Link is in the description as well as the pinned comment in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.